Downies and hairies look almost exactly alike except for size. The hairy is bigger and the bill is almost as long as his head, while the downy's bill is about half as long as his head. The outer tail feathers of the downy are barred black and white. These woodpeckers have an all-white back unique to them. The crown and neck of the female are black, while the male has a small red spot at the nape of the neck. There's a black line through the eye with white lines above and below it. In late winter, when it seems that spring is still far off, we often hear the drumming of woodpeckers. They are not looking for food, but for love and territory. The downy and hairy woodpeckers start their courtship drumming in January in the north, as they do not migrate. They often use a dead tree trunk or hollow snag, but also use a metal gutter, a drain pipe, a street sign, or a utility pole to make a loud sound and defend their territory. They seem to bond with their mate at this time, but the serious courtship coincides with spring. These woodpeckers don't sing. The hairy has a rattly call similar to a kingfisher's, while the downy's call starts higher than the hairy and both pitch downward at the end. They also have a sharp peak, but in spring hairies make a call that's kind of sputtering. He will also spread his white tail feathers and raise the red feathers on the nape of his neck. Downies perform flights like butterflies, chasing one another between trees in slow fluttering beats. They also display territorially by hitching around and around a tree trunk after each other and fanning their tails and waving their bills. The nest site is often chosen by the female downy after investigating many sites with her mate. Hairies usually start nesting about 2 weeks before downies. The pair will excavate the cavity in a dead tree or dead section of a deciduous tree. Generally, downies use a limb and make a hole on the underside. Hairies more often use the trunk of a tree. It's about 7 inches wide and 6 to 12 inches deep and takes 2 to 3 weeks to finish. The female lays 3 to 5 shiny white eggs in the cavity without any nesting material. It's assumed that the color of the egg makes it easy to see in the darkness of the cavity. Both parents take turns incubating, with the male usually taking the night watch. The young hatch in about 12 days, still unfeathered and less developed than other species. They cannot see, but when an adult blocks the light in the hole bringing food, they start to beg, as they can distinguish between light and dark. Hairies feed about every 9 minutes and downies about every 5 minutes. In about a week, their eyes open and they start to climb the walls to get a better position for feeding. Hairy babies have an arrangement with each other so all are fed equally. They rest in a circular pile, and the last one fed puts his head down, and the one with his head at the top of the pile has not been fed for the longest period of time. Just before fledging, which is 18 to 21 days for downies and about a month for hairies, the young become more noisy and aggressive during feedings. The adults bring food less often to encourage fledging. The first flight is usually short to a nearby tree and adults to continue to feed it for a while. They will come to suet feeders at this time, but as they haven't learned to coordinate eating and leaning on their tail for support at the same time, they are fed by their parents. Downy woodpeckers join flocks or mixed species in winter. The advantage of this are safety from predators and the facility of finding food. Their main diet is insects, which includes beetle larvae as well as ants and caterpillars, corn earworm, tent caterpillars, bark beetles, and apple borers. They also eat food on and in the stems of weeds that larger woodpeckers cannot get. They will even hammer on goldenrod to get the larvae out from inside. They do eat some plant material, including berries, acorns, grains, and at feeders will eat suet and black oil sunflower seeds. You will often see them leaning against their stiff tail for support while foraging on tree trunks, branches, grasses, and wildflowers.